hello. So I'm going to start with just asking you guys a really simple question that may take a little bit longer than 2 seconds to answer. Have you ever personally met your soulmate? I hear some yeses. Not really. Yeah, they're pretty hard to come by, right? So now think about what made that person your soulmate. Was it the way they looked? Was it the career that they had? Was it the way that they connected with your soul? Was it the fact that they were also in the same religion? There's a million different reasons, right, why we feel connected to another person in that deep way. So I grew up in a Christian environment, and I was dead set on finding my soulmate. So I knew I wasn't going to find this person in a bar or at a club. I knew this person had to have really high character, had to have respect for women, had to be good looking, and had to love me for who I was, because I'm kind of a unique character. So I went along life, went to an Ivy League school, played soccer, achieved whatever I could achieve and grasp at that moment. But one thing that always lingered is that I really wanted to find this one thing, which was my soulmate. So I'm like 24, 25 years old, and by this time in the Christian community, it's like your eggs are probably getting like cobwebby at this point. Now we think 25, that's not too old, but back then I felt old. So one night I was browsing on the internet, and I'm really into the Myers-Briggs personality test. So I was looking up, I wanted to find a guy who was an INFJ male. So I just typed into Google INFJ male, right? And there were 2 results, and one of them happened to be my future spouse. So I had reached out to him, we met up. I happened to be doing social work in Pasadena. He happened to be a software developer working for a startup in Pasadena, but living in Reno. And we had this amazing connection. We had this whirlwind courtship, and within 6 months, to all of our family's dismay, we were married. But it made sense. Like, our families, they got it. Like, they saw us together and they understood these 2 people are super compatible. They have a tremendous amount of respect for one another, and they literally make each other better people. So he was like the yin to my yang. He was a developer, software developer, super just chill, relaxed, goes at a slow pace, but a steady pace. And then I was just crazy, erratic, creative. And it just worked like lock and key, just so seamless. And this went along I moved to Reno, dropped out of grad school, moved to Reno, started working in startups and started doing startup-y things with my new husband. And every night we would go out to restaurants or bars and just talk about ideas. It was like TED Talks all the time. We just really enjoyed each other's minds. And we were soulmates, literally. And so this went along, we've been married now 9 years, and so this went along for a good while, and it felt like the most peaceful time in my entire life. I felt like I had a home inside this person's soul, and this person lived with me. We worked together oftentimes, we did projects together, we dreamed together, we bought a house together. I helped him raise my stepkids together, and everything seemed like I had won the lottery. Like, I could check that box off, like, found my soulmate. And so you can imagine one day, I was told something that would change my life. I was told that my spouse was transgender. You could probably hear a pin drop right now. And my response was interesting. My first response was, "You've got to be fucking kidding me." My second response was, "Okay, tell me more. Like, what does this mean for us? And what do you have to do to feel whole and to feel like you feel good in your body?" So this was about 3 years ago now, and we are still married, and this took me through this process of really researching, what does it mean to be transgender? For my spouse, it meant that she was not comfortable in her male body, and that she needed to medically transition. Now for me, if you or anybody out there is thinking, shoot, like, you're looking at your partner right now and being like, are you gonna drop this bomb on me? It's been an interesting journey. I would love to say I was always very PC and very open-minded and very encouraging of her transition. She did give me the option. She said, if this ends our relationship, I will not do this. And I just had a tremendous amount of respect for how much she respected our marriage and me as a human. And so it's like I had all this respect for her, and I wanted the best for her, and I wanted her to be whole. And at the same time, I couldn't put words to it, but I was feeling like somebody was dying, It was like somebody that I knew was going away, and there was a new person coming in. And part of my struggle is really real, and it's really just the natural progression of how one would feel when their spouse transitions. And then there's another part of it, which is more like around 60% of my reaction, and that's what is known as internalized transphobia. And I didn't even know I had it. It's very much, Alexis talked about programming and what men have been programmed and boys have been programmed to think about women and sexuality. And I think as a society, we've been programmed to think that people that don't fit into the binary, who aren't man or woman, or who were born as a sex that they don't identify with, that those people are different or weird or strange. And so imagine when I know this person inside and out. I've been married to this person for 6 years by this point, and I adored every fiber of this person's being. So you can imagine that me of all people would understand and realize that this is a normal person who has a very serious condition that is treatable. But it was hard because I still felt like this sense of embarrassment a little bit, or shame that we were now different, right? So I had to go through my entire process. This has been 3 years, but I've had to do a lot of hard work on what does it mean to be married to somebody who is transgender? What does that mean about my sexuality? Does that mean that I'm now a lesbian? Because when we go out, of course, people see us and they just think that we're a lesbian couple. That's not entirely accurate. What does it mean, we go to the gym and we go to the locker room together and we swim together. And all these things lead us to interactions with people that could or could not be understanding of our situation. And that was hard for me. It was hard for me to go from having all this privilege as a white, middle-class female who feels okay being a female, who's married to a male so I was in a heterosexual relationship, and I had all this privilege that I didn't even know that I had. And so as we're going through this journey, it's like we're learning new things every day, and I'm learning what words to say, what words not to say. I'm learning what works in the bedroom, what doesn't work in the bedroom, right? I'm relearning all sorts of things. But what I'm learning the most is that a lot of my fear about my spouse changing was really imposed from the outside. It was really my fear of what other people would think. And so now I stand here today. I am the proud wife of a transgender woman, and she is still my soulmate. And I would know she's my soulmate if this room was dark right now. I would know how to find her in this room. And I think that's the lesson to take from all this, is that people have a patina, they have a presence in the world, they have a look, or they have a job, or they have all these things that are outward facing that everybody identifies them by and puts them into boxes. That's how we categorize people and we get to know them. But underneath there's a soul, and that soul is so much deeper and stronger. And and so much more identifiable than that patina. So my challenge to you today is, would you even know how to recognize your soulmate? If you're going out in the world right now, would you know what you're looking for? Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.